Welcome to the Love, Sex, and Leadership podcast, where you can discover simple tantric teachings to embody your true power, awaken your soul's wisdom, and live an inspired life as a natural, intuitive, and heart-centered leader.
Keeping your back straight. Feeling this alignment of your body, this alignment of your chakras, this alignment. And so as we start to weave with dark and light, we also want to look at the polarity inside of us. So right now, if you take your hand and meet the bones in your body, bones in your body is what creates structure for the blood and the waters to flow. Without the bones, the water and the blood have no structure. And same thing, without the water and the blood, the bones are just a pile on the floor. So we can also look at that in this relationship between light and dark. Right now, as your eyes are closed, there's a level of darkness. The same darkness you go to every night. Same darkness of even putting your hand across your face. You don't see your hand because you're in the dark. And if we look at the universal design of this wild, crazy world that we live in, on this spinning rock in the middle of the galaxy, there's a lot of dark matter in this universe. More dark matter than there is light matter. And so rather than darkness being something that we should be afraid of, what if it's something that we can source ourselves from? Just the same way we source ourselves from our sleep when we go into the darkness. We can source ourselves from this place of knowing the darkness within us, not the badness, but the darkness. And this darkness also has a relationship with death. This relationship that understands at some point in this bioelectric magnetic flesh suit, this body will decompose and die. There's a part of our being that knows that relationship. And yet even inside of that, I'm sure many of us at times have had fear of our own death. What will happen? Where will we go? What does that mean? And so breathing in this breath of life, letting out some sounds, and then gently opening the eyes to experience the light. Here I am. Here you are. Take a look outside to this wilderness, to this nature. We live in a world of polarity, of duality. In this world of polarity and duality, just as I was saying yesterday, is a place to more effectively master so that we can understand more deeply and know more deeply why we're here and what the essence is that we're here to show up as in this life. And so in doing that, there's an opportunity for all of us, especially as male bodies, to know the power of our darkness. And if we look out in society, I don't know about you, but I didn't necessarily have a great mentor of a dark masculine in my life. Anyone have anything like that growing up? And just maybe don't even know what that means. And so a lot of what is praised, especially for the masculine, is giving and holding and being the space holder and being the one that's there observing and seeing and doing all of that. And just a a piece that around the space holder for the light masculine part of you that loves to be identified as a space holder. Space has been doing a great job of holding itself for a long time. And noticing, especially as people go on these spiritual journeys, it's like there's this identification to that role. And this is where it gets interesting, because the moment we start to identify to a characteristic, then there's an egoic connection to that characteristic that actually gets in the way of your essence to be shared. How many of you at times have found your ego very identified to who you are? Like, I am this and I am that. And yeah, because that's often what we're told and sold by in society. You need to be the doctor, you need to be the teacher, you need to be this thing. And the moment that the ego is getting identified in all these things, it actually is getting in the way of the naturalness that's wanting to come through you. But this naturalness can only be there when there's a relationship to both polarities, both the masculine and feminine and the light and the dark. So some of the embodied journeys that we're going to go on this morning especially is a journey into the deeper layers of the dark. And that's not something that can just be spoken about. But the reason we speak about it first is so that the mind understands the concepts before we dive into the body. Because if we just take you on a journey into the darkness and the mind doesn't know the why, then after the journey the mind's like, that's not safe. Why did we do this? I can't do this anymore. But if you start to understand the why, and the why comes from the equanimity of both sides of existence. Because the why is always in duality. The why exists in the light and the dark, the masculine, the feminine, the good and the bad, and all those pieces weaving together. And then it's from that why that gets equilibrated and neutralized in the mind that we actually have the place to drop into the body. But if we're trying to figure out why, because we still have an attachment to something needing to be good or bad, as we talked about yesterday, then we're constantly afraid of actually dropping into the mystery of the body. And what I've come to understand, I'm sure you've had taste of this as well, is sometimes you go into the mystery of the body and you're like, this makes no sense. Who's had that experience? You just feel something in your body that your mind can't even conceive. And so we want to create a synergy and communication between mind, heart, emotions, and sex. So there's an alignment between all of these centers. And that's what helps create a place to know how to dive into the dark, so that you as a man are able to stand strong in your grounding, strong in your boundaries, not to prove your worth, what we were talking about yesterday, as the warrior, but to stand strong in a place of pure stillness, not to prove who you are, but to actually be the representation of light and dark moving through you. Now, the way that that shapes and works out is that when you can actually meet all of your dark edges inside of you and embody that which you don't like. How many of you, just as we learned yesterday, are frustrated with some of the things that the masculine does on this planet? Anyone? The raping, the manipulating, the stealing, all these. It's in the feminine as well. But all of that energy is inside of you as well. And whatever you suppress on the inside gets expressed on the outside. So if you're suppressing your violent, raping killer, then you're going to judge it on the outside. Now that doesn't mean you need to become that violent, raping killer, but you need to know that you have the capacity of that energy inside of you. Because if you don't know that capacity, then that energy will own you on the outside. The way it owns you is through your thoughts, your judgments, your projections. Oh, they're that way, I'm just the spiritual guy who meditates in the mountains. Yeah, I'm all good. Nope. Society's that way. That's just Trump. That's just Putin. That's just those guys. I'm not like that. I'm too good. I'm spiritual. Can't you see? And so this is the separation that creates inside of these communities that we move through. So when you can own the potency and the power of your dark masculine, that part that can look a man in the eyes and know that you have the capacity to kill him and he has the capacity to kill you, then actually you can rise together. But if you don't know that capacity and you're afraid of the strength of your own sword, guess what? You're going to become his sheep. Not because he wants to, some people might want to, but when he recognizes that you're not going to become his sheep, then you can actually rise together. But you stand strong in your power, not trying to have power over him, but having power with him, because him is inside of you. So when you can own that place inside that can annihilate another, can take someone to death, can have a relationship with the pure eternal stillness, then you begin to meet more deeply the dark masculine inside of you. And the other thing the dark masculine does is he knows the potency of his cock. But not the potency of his cock that needs to fuck for gratification. The potency of his cock that knows how to fuck to remove anything that's not love. Take a deep breath in. And unfortunately, we're often taught the potency of our cock is bad. How many of you have ever had thoughts and ideas that have been forced upon you? Oh, your hard cock? Don't go anywhere near anybody because that's just going to cause fucking issues. And so what happens at a young age? We get this fear about having a hard cock, about actually standing strong, about actually being able to be in our true embodied power, because all of the shame that just gets pressed down into our base, and then we have too many drinks on a Saturday night, and then we do stupid shit because we haven't embodied our animal. So the dark masculine has a direct relationship to his embodied animal inside. And there's a communication channel between consciousness and animal to the point in which he can awaken that animal. He can fuck with love, with presence and awareness, but he doesn't need to fuck as a way to gratify that which he doesn't know or to prove who he really is. And this is where, and this is an entire another conversation, but we tap into more sexual healing. And this is also where people tread a very thin line, because the potency of your cock, the potency of your father's cock is what created life. Feel this body right now. This body's here because sperm and egg met that created life. That's a pretty fucking powerful force. Holy fuck. So when you can actually tap into the potency of that energy and channel that energy through your entire body, you're a force to be reckoned with. Not as something that needs to be afraid of in the eyes of others, but actually something that moves and penetrates and vibrates out into the world as a way of saying, I'm here, and I'm also connected to my heart. And this is where the light and the dark begin to dance together, because this light masculine is the one that's connected to the heart, connected to the feeling, connected to this centered compassion that can be there, saying, just as Jesus said, give me all of your sins, all of your issues, all of your problems, and I'm here to listen. Without judgment, just to love you as the essence of who you are. And what a beautiful gift that is. So that's not to be negated either, but these are to be interwoven together, what makes for an integrated masculine energy inside of a male body. Because if you don't know the light or the dark, then that's actually what creates the most amount of fear. What supports the feminine in all bodies to know safety and trust is when she, again in all bodies, but when she can see the dark and the light and they seem to be woven in together and they're integrated. into a layer of, I'm here, I love you, I can take care of you, and I can fuck you to God. Deep breath in.
And you can imagine that there is this animal that internally can be shamed. So we put it in a cage. And then we have a few drinks. And then this animal gets agitated and the door swings open and this wild animal just goes, I'm free! And just does whatever the fuck it wants to do because it's been caged up for so long that it just penetrates and eats and devours everything and anything because it's like, if not now, then when? Whereas if there is this same animal that has a deep integration with our being and is always present and free, then there's no need to burst out of the cage because there is no cage. It can just be there, right by our side, and that power is available to attack, defend, fuck, whatever is alive for that animal, it is available. But it's that nuanced place of I can turn things slowly upwards. You know, I can turn the volume of my animal up from 0 to 1 to 2 to 3 to 4 to 5, as opposed to it's either off or on. And these are those stress responses. When we're in a stress response, it's either off or on. There is no volume dial. There is no scale. There's just yes or no. Locked or free. And when we can have that place of integration of our animal, then we can say, all right, my animal's at 3 right now. And I can be in that place of just being at 3 and happy with that. And not this need to be at 10 because I'm going to be shut down for who knows how long again if I don't. And I think a really important piece just to clarify with some of this is the difference between darkness, shadow, and evil. Because often there is this confusion of where does one start and where does the other one finish? And for me, this darkness, this is the power. This is connection. If we think of a tree, the tree stands because of its root system. And the root system is in the ground, it's in the darkness, it's absorbing the nutrients and the power of Mother Earth. And that's what we do when we integrate our darkness. We actually integrate this power of Mother Earth. And that doesn't mean we need to be wild. What that darkness does is it means that when these strong winds of desire or fear come up, we can stand against those winds. And we may sway a little, but we hold strong. And the deeper our root system is, the more we're nourished and the more stable we are as a human being. And then the shadow, that's that piece that's hiding behind my vision. Those pieces that I know there's something there, but I don't quite know what it is. Very different from my power. It can be directly related to my power. If I see that, it can actually connect me even deeper to my root system. And who knows, that shadow actually may be our taproot that takes us deep into the earth and really opens up our power. And then evil is the flip of living or life. And this is when we're going against life, when we're wanting to cause harm, when our intention is to go against life, is when we're playing in the evil. And that has no relationship to darkness. You can be in this very I'm going to say, shadowy space of the light masculine and be as evil as fuck. Because you're super manipulative and playing in the light for your own way, and it can cause other people harm. But look at me, I'm all love and light. I mean, how do you think these cults are created? They're created through these men that are portraying this godlike essence, where really they're just wanting to suck the energy out of life and feed their own limitations. And so we're talking about the darkness here. We're talking about being able to tap into this nourishment, this power, this deepness that is within our soul. And then recognizing that through the root system, we build up through the trunks and then we reach up to the skies. We reach and connect through that light. And if it isn't for the light of the photosynthesis coming down, then our root system can't go deep. And there is this polarity that is always in balance. That the level of true connection to your light is equivalent to your true connection to your dark. And if you don't want to go deep, you're going to hit a ceiling in your light. And you might want to go really wide in the light, but you're not going to go high if you don't go deep. And the more connected you can authentically be to your darkness and be in that place of, I fucking can kill. And with that knowing, I choose not to. But I own my power. I own my full capacity. And within my capacity, I make choices that come from my heart. That allows us to connect to the light and extend this polarity. And that is, when Buddha talked about that middle path, he doesn't mean find the mean and sit there and don't deviate from this center. He means extend it as wide as possible and move between all of that spectrum. Find the middle way and make your middle as wide as possible. Take a breath.
So where does this leave for you as a male body in this world to ground and live and share this way of being? It means to meet your edges. It means to meet the places inside that is that uncomfortable place that you recognize you've been pushing away power. You've been giving it to someone else. You've been not expanding yourself into what you're truly meant to be. And I often think of a quote from Marianne Williamson: sometimes we're not afraid of our smallness, we're afraid of our bigness. It's a much more intricate quote, but you get the essence. And I think that's a huge piece, because in a way, part of that sheep mentality is being taught at a young age to not be too big, to not be too grandiose, because then you're going to cause trouble. You're going to cause issues. It's better just to get a job, work at the office, get things done, buy a house, have some children, live life that way. Don't do anything outside of that box. It's a little scary out there. It's a little scary out there. What's going to happen? And I know you're all here because you've gone beyond that thought process. And I know you're all here because you also want to step into something even greater. And I want to speak into the potency of even you being in a container like this, but I don't think you realize how fucking powerful you are. The number of male bodies that would benefit just alone from the last 2 days we've had together, the amount of knowledge, wisdom, and experience that you could impart into their lives. Not because you need to, maybe you want to, but just by being the change you wish to see on this planet. That alone makes a difference. And sometimes you might be questioning, who am I? Who am I to make a difference in someone's life? Who am I to be strong? Who the fuck are you not to? Really? Like, who are you not to? One of the things I love about, leading this retreat now for the last 5-6 years is witnessing so many guys who have been here who have said, fuck, I don't know what to do. So I've come back once, twice, and then, just in the last couple of months, I've had one beautiful French brother who's found his way back to France and is fucking blowing up, like teaching people to open their voice, expressing. And I remember him sitting in one of the retreats in Central America, and he was like, fuck, I have no money, I'm broke, I'm feeling empty. Now I just see him thriving because he finally actually started to believe in himself. Another dear brother I saw 2 weeks ago in Austria, when he first came a few years ago. Again, like he had tons of gifts and things, but wasn't actually actualizing those gifts in the world. And he just came back for practitioner training, and it was so beautiful to see him thriving and growing and expanding and making beautiful abundance, not making abundance so he can prove himself to his father and mother, but so he can live an embodied life as a beautiful, intelligent, joyful human and not needing to play small anymore. There's a gift, there's a gem, there's a power inside of each of you, and what we're going to dive into today is accessing probably some of the places inside of you that you haven't met before. And we can talk about this till we're blue in the face, but when you have the opportunity to meet that energy and be a pilgrim of that energy and discover that energy inside of you, then things start to reshuffle and reformulate inside of you. That's not something that the mind can ever actually impart into the body. And that's why, to me, the potency and the power of these fields is when a guy actually shows up and says, I fucking surrender. I can't figure this out on my own anymore. I need my tribe of brothers to support me. And that's what we get to do through all of this. So honoring you for just your courage to be here to meet this light and dark, because there's a lot of men who don't even have the willingness or the capacity to do that. Deep breath in.
This visualization that I have of all about us. And I truly believe you asked before whether every man's heart is good. I believe that there is this magnificent radiance that shines from every single being on this planet. And I see it like one of those big stage lights. And then we put a blue filter in front. And then we put a yellow filter in front. And then we put a red filter in front. And there are so many filters that all of a sudden, like, is there a light over there? And what we do in these circles is we go, actually, I don't need that filter. And I don't need that filter. And we're not changing our radiance. We're just allowing it to be seen. We're taking away some of these filters that dim them. They dim our natural light from being seen. So you don't need to be more than you are. You don't need to be more radiant. You already are more radiant than the sun. We just want to see you. The world wants to see you. And it's time.
Again, just sitting out for a moment, come to our feet here in a minute. We're just letting all of this land into your body. Letting all this land into your body. Take a deep breath in.